What's up, it's Jan back at it again with another nerdy bookish video. Today we're going to be talking about banned books. So first of all, I'm wearing my Read Banned Books tee from HelloLovelyBox.com. Use code JustJan15 for 15% off anything in their store. Y'all know the drill. I'm a rep for them again for my third term and I'm so happy to be here. I love all their stuff. Y'all know this. Anyway, it's Banned Books Week. It is currently September 19th. I'm hoping to get this up before the end of the week because Banned Books Week is from the 18th to the 24th and I have a Patreon 24-hour readathon on the 24th. So I have to get this up in the next couple days. By the way, I have a Patreon now because y'all made it happen. It's always going to be linked down below. I'll shout out my patrons at the end of the video and in the description, and it's like, it's a party, okay? It's a party in the Lair. It's not even 10 o'clock, I swear to you. I am pooped. Mercury and all her little planet friends really do be retrograding lately because shit has been going down. Moods have been going wild. People are getting COVID left and right. Like, I don't know what's going on. I know what's going on. The planets are freaking having their own party up there, but we are here suffering. So speaking of, tonight I just went with my mom to pick up Candy's remains. I got a gold necklace with her remains in it, little heart with a paw print, and my mom got a silver one. We got her little bones all crushed up in like a bamboo urn. So sad. And it came in this big pouch that said "Until we meet again at the Rainbow Bridge," which I've never heard of the Rainbow Bridge book. I have it over there, but one of my subscribers, Natalie, who literally goes so hard for me, got me that picture book. I haven't been able to read it yet, but I'm assuming it's about dogs going a little like doggy heaven or whatever, crossing the Rainbow Bridge, and she got me a matching blanket and like this little bracelet came with it, and it was just the cutest freaking gift. Ever since then, I've been hearing about the Rainbow Bridge everywhere. So yeah, super cute. Anyway, reverting back to the topic at hand here. Is that the right phrase? I don't even know. Banned books. I have a little cheat sheet here. I'm gonna talk a little bit about banned books in general, and then I'm gonna share some of my favorite banned or challenged books. So the whole purpose, the intent of Banned Books Week is to celebrate these books that have been banned or challenged at schools, or mostly in schools, but like in stores. It's supposed to combat censorship. So in layman's terms, censorship is essentially very harmful to educating and providing useful information about communities you might not be a part of or other cultures, races. Censoring those books that discuss these topics hinders, prevents, what is the word I'm thinking about? Is it hinders? I think it's prevents too, like prevents kids or people in general from learning and educating themselves about other communities, other races, other cultures, and getting that learning experience that is honestly crucial to growth and expanding your knowledge about things. And it's just honestly the reasons why some of these books have been banned or challenged are just ridiculous for some of these. Like, I was doing research for the library. I work at a library, if you didn't know. Like, freaking Where's Waldo was banned because there's one little woman who's sunbathing without a top on, but like her breasts aren't even in it. It's just like her back, and it's like it implies that she's not wearing a top. Things like that, you know? Censorship in books is just very one-sided. It caters to a certain group of people, a certain type of mindset, a certain type of outlook when it comes to literature. And literature is for educating, for providing information and sharing experiences, using your voices to tell your story and implement your own culture, your own experiences, your own lives into writing, into books, so that people learn and understand better. But censoring just makes that all go away. I don't know the word I'm thinking of. Is it hinders? I don't know, but basically censorship is detrimental to education. It's bad, okay? I also want to touch upon the difference between banned versus challenged. A lot of people use them interchangeably. Banned is just, you know, what you would think it means, like completely not allowed and whatever, and then some books are just challenged where people try to fight it, and I'm assuming like sign petitions to get this book banned and like have raised complaints about these books, but not necessarily did these complaints go through in order to make these books completely go away from schools and stores and whatever else. Personally, out of the books I'm going to talk about later in this video, I'm not sure which ones are banned or just challenged, but I did want to just mention that there is a difference because people freak out and it's like, oh my god, when did this book book get banned and Dr. Seuss isn't banned and blah 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 blah. But like, they're not necessarily all officially banned. It's just banned or challenged, but it's shorter to say banned, and everyone knows it is banned books week. And okay, so let's go into the books that I have read and I've enjoyed that are on this banned / challenged books list. I have no idea how I'm gonna do Spooktober, y'all. Like, just side note, I don't know how I'm gonna do that. We're gonna try our darndest, but yeah, the whole daily posting thing, and it's literally 10 days away from October and I haven't pre-filmed a single thing. So we'll see if I could pull it off. And if I do, some of them will be on my Patreon and it'll be a whole thing. But I don't know why that thought just came to mind right now. I'm like constantly stressed about it, but I want to make it happen because October is peak Jan season, you know? At least like personally is when I thrive. So when I'm like thriving in a good mood in general, that's when my best content comes out. But like, so much has been going on. Let me talk about the ones I have physically first, and then I'll do the whole like insert picture thing. All right, so the very first book that I know has been banned in a few schools because John Green made a video about it. I believe this is his debut, Looking for Alaska, and if y'all know me, this is a book that has shaped me to who I am. Like, I always say that because this is one of the very first books that I read where I felt completely seen for all the like stupid shit I did when I was younger and all the feelings that I felt that felt so invalid. This book validated them for me. Alaska is a girl. People are always like, oh, Alaska's like a name of a person? Yeah, Alaska's a girl, and she's this like reckless, impulsive person who's honestly just misunderstood because she has a lot of other things going on deep down. She has a lot of mental things going on. Her mom has died and she's coping with that on a daily basis. She just copes with things in unusual ways. Unusual, at least to the main character, who is Miles, and he's this like quirky, lanky, awkward kid who meets this enigma of a girl, right? At this new school, she's the complete opposite of him, so he's just like in awe, like completely in love, head over heels. I do see the problems in this book, the whole romanticizing mental illness and talking about drugs and alcohol abuse and all that. But John Green, I will link that video down below. John Green has a 3-minute video about why this shouldn't be banned, because some of the schools that have banned it, he's heard that they banned it because of this one scene, this blowjob scene, where she doesn't even give one. The girl doesn't actually give one. I'll let John Green explain it to you. It's only 3 minutes. It's such a good video. I've seen it so many times. I've also read this so many times, and it just hits every time, y'all. Like, I have the French edition of this, I have the little penguin edition, the mini book, and then I have like 3 different editions of like regular sized copies. I love this book so freaking much, and I'm gonna move on because I feel like I talk about this very often on my channel. The next book that I see on almost every banned or challenged book list is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is one of those that by challenging this book, you're silencing Black voices. This is a crucial book to the Black community. It's about this young girl who basically stands up for her rights and goes through all these injustices growing up in a predominantly white school, and she's like living a double life basically, and you see both sides of her life, the hardships that her family goes through, and then her being on the outside looking in, seeing all her white peers live life, taking advantage of their privileges and everything. And it's honestly such a powerful book with so much impact. By censoring this is just disrespectful. In all seriousness though, like, it's a great book. This was actually the very first audiobook I ever listened to. It was either this one or Children of Blood and Bone. I think it was this one. I do want to read it again physically and annotate it. Angie Thomas is a spectacular writer. She knows how to hit your heartstrings. She knows how to convey what she wants to convey, and like, she means every single word, and you can tell that she puts her heart into her books. And if you haven't read this yet, do it. Exercise your freedom. Freedom, but like Freadom, freed. Okay, yeah, we get it. Okay. Moving on. Kind of cute, kind of quirky, but I put this on there. 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. So, obviously I know the issues with this book, this whole series, this whole franchise in general, okay? I get it. I know. I've heard from people who have personal experiences with BDSM, okay, that it's inaccurate and all that, and like, the writing is objectively not great, but just Just hear me out. This was the book that got me back into reading after high school. After all the required reading trauma, I took this book with me, not this particular edition, I got 2 of these for my birthday, thank you Joey and Sid, but this book I took on a trip with me to California to visit my dad, which is weird to say, and I just fell in love with reading again. So that's why this series means so much to me, and I binged that series like back to back to back, which if you know me, I never do. I'm trying to. I'll link my Folk of the Air trilogy vlog down below. I want to do that more and more often, but this was the series that started it all. If it weren't for 50 Shades of Grey, I would not be on BookTube, so think about that. The next book I have here, I read so fucking quickly because I had to for college, and then I ended up getting a C on the quiz anyway, and I remember I was super late to class because there was this career fair. All the parking garages on campus were full, all the parking lots were full, and I was so fucking late to class, and I was so stressed, and I still got a C. But it was a good book. Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. So I don't hear a lot of people talk about this book. I love how floppy it is. So it's like a 600-page book, and I had to read it in like 2 days because I procrastinated. If I'm being honest with you, I don't remember too much about it. I just remember how I felt after reading it. I felt so much more, I don't even know how to explain it, just like I felt more open-minded. No, that's not the right word. I just felt more well-educated on getting insight, you know, like a glimpse of how society makes Black people feel sometimes, and that's really what this book is about mostly. There are a lot of metaphors throughout it. It's so well written. It takes place in Harlem, New York, right? I remembered that. Wow. I do want to reread this because I just remember this one scene, but I don't actually remember what happened. I just remember how it made me feel reading it, and how when we analyzed it in class, how just like light bulb moment. It was such a big light bulb moment for me. I'm sorry, I don't do this book justice at all, but I really just wanted to include it in this video because I haven't talked about it since college, and I just remember it making such a big impact on me and giving me a little bit more of an understanding of the different injustices and oppressions, microaggressions that Black people face on a daily basis. Not saying, this is not me saying that I understand fully, because like I could never understand because I am not Black in any way, shape, or form. So please don't take that the wrong way. I hope you know what I'm saying, because this book means a lot to me, and I have those memories attached to it. Even though they were stressful, it still like made an impact on my life clearly. So yeah, I will reread this one day. It is considered a classic, I believe. So for not only does Ralph Ellison's nightmare journey across the racial divide tell unparalleled truths about the nature of bigotry and its effects on the minds of both victims and perpetrators, it gives us an entirely new model of what a novel can be. As he journeys from the deep south to the streets and basements of Harlem, from a horrifying battle royal where Black men are reduced to fighting animals to a communist rally where they are elevated to the status of trophies, Ralph Ellison's nameless protagonist ushers readers into a parallel universe that throws our own into harsh and even hilarious relief. Yeah, so I remember this being pretty funny too, and I forgot that part, that the protagonist's name is never mentioned, so that goes right into the invisibility of him when it comes to how society perceives him because of the color of his skin. I remember analyzing that in class and how I was like, oh shit, like I didn't even notice that the guy didn't have a name. So just that touch, you know, and it talks about like the power of a name and everything. So great book, moving on. All right, now I'm going to talk about my favorite classic of all time, The Catcher in the Rye. My favorite classic by far. I still have many classics to read, but this one I've reread a couple times. I've written countless essays about it and analyzing the text and everything for college, and I believe in high school as well. This is the Centennial edition. It's so cute, even with the deckled edges, which I hate, but I got it for like $4. It was like a really old like vintage edition. By censoring this book out of, you know, schools and banning it from curriculums, is that the right curriculi? What's the plural of curriculum? I don't know. Does it even have a plural version? I don't know. It silences this voice from talking about mental health. When I say that I was shook about how much mental health was discussed in this, because the first time I read it was in high school and I was just trying to get through it for the assignment, you know, but then in college we went way more in depth. The love that grew out of me for this book was just incredible, and I never looked back. This was one of the very first books I read during lockdown, so that's another memory attached to this. The professor that made me fall in love with this book actually got to interview J.D. Salinger. If you didn't know, J.D. Salinger refused to give interviews when he was alive. My professor was just very persuasive, and I thought that was cool. It was about Holden Caulfield. The writing is very stream of consciousness, which I thought was very entertaining. I understand that some people have issues with this too. I honestly haven't read up on anything on it because I didn't want to taint my love for this book, but I know there are some problematic issues with this as well. And it also gets really heavy. There are suicidal thoughts, depression, anxiety, abuse, sexual harassment, things like that. Some of that is very subtle, but you can just tell if you read between the lines all the problems that Holden Caulfield has to face on the daily and his own ways of coping with everything. Let me know if you love this book as much as I do in the comments down below. The next book I have, Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. This was another required reading book in college that I actually enjoyed. I also was able to watch the film adaptation with Halle Berry. Did I say her name right? Halle Berry? Halle Berry, right? Yeah. The trigger warnings for dog abuse. So animal cruelty is in here. It's also very prominent in the movie. So this one, the main theme in this book is Black beauty and black hair and how important hair is to the Black community. It talks about different skin tones in the Black community and how those are perceived in society. It gets heavy, as a lot of these books do, but yeah, just go into this carefully, tread with caution. I'm pretty sure I've read this twice. There's racism in this, and there's domestic abuse, like I said, animal cruelty. So yeah, but I really enjoyed analyzing this in class as well. Pretty sure I nailed that essay that I had to write analyzing this text. Had a good time with this book and I learned a lot. So again, censoring this would be detrimental to people's ability to learn. It's a great book, and it's not that long either. This is one of the few classics that I also enjoyed reading. Next one I read more than once as well. The first time I read this was in 4th grade. I was in like the gifted kids class or whatever it was called. I think it was called like TDP, Talent Development Program is what it was, and I read this in 4th grade, The Giver by Lois Lowry, and then I read it again in high school, I think, just for fun, and I definitely understood it a lot more. This is not for a 4th grader's brain, let me tell you, but I think this is what started my love for books that involve memory manipulation. This is from the perspective of an 11-year-old going on 12 named Jonas, and it's set in this dystopian world where pain doesn't exist, prejudices don't exist, like nothing negative exists. It's essentially a perfect world, right? But also your choice is taken away because everything is uniform, everyone's conforming to everyone, like everything's the same. And then when you hit 12, I think you get put into these career paths basically, or what they are. Either that or that's the only thing you get to choose. I don't remember. This opens up a whole new perspective. This was the first dystopian I've ever read. There's a scene where one of like the head honchos, I don't know what they're called, places a hand on the kid's back and he shows them like all like the bad memories that he doesn't have because his life has been so perfect up to this point, and they have to literally insert pain through painful memories. I think one of the memories that he put in him was like falling off a sled or something, and like he's never experienced pain like that, so it was a very traumatic experience and they had to like wean him into these painful memories. So it just gives a new point of view on what it means to have freedom of choice, and it makes kids who read this feel, at least it made me feel, lucky to have that privilege of choice, and that there are positives to feeling pain and feeling negative things at the end of the day. So just that perspective alone, when that gets taken away by banning this book, it's harmful, you know? Like, you could learn a lot from this book, and when you take it away, it's just, I don't know. I'm not saying everyone has read this book and everyone who hasn't read this book doesn't know these things, but I'm saying like the opportunity is there. This video is not going as well as I thought, but I hope my point is coming across. The next book that I enjoyed that has been on these banned books list is Crank by Ellen Hopkins. This is the first in a pretty decent sized series. All the books are definitely decent sized. They're thick, but they're all written in verse. The reason this series is banned is because it talks about drug and alcohol abuse and just everything this girl goes through in her life, dealing with that and recovering from that and whatever. I've only read the first one. I think I read half of the second one, and I DNF'd one of her newer books, but I really enjoyed Crank. Yes, it gets heavy, and yes, it involves drugs and everything, but like kids are gonna find out about them anyway, whether they read this book or not. So like at least literature would provide an outlet, not an outlet, a passageway, a path, I don't know the word. I have the word on the tip of my tongue. What is the word? Basically a way, it's a way to, oh my god, I have the word. It's right there. Ugh, I don't know. I can't think of it, but it's basically a way. It gives these kids a way to talk about it in a more formal setting. It gives the opportunity to talk about it. I can't think of the word and it's bothering me, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you could discuss it in a classroom setting, like safety precautions and things like that. Because like if a kid's gonna do it, they're gonna do it regardless of a book or not. But you know, they could do it unsafely and then it'll fuck them over even more. So like, I just hate the thought of books being banned. It's so stupid. Moving on, I'm struggling here. This book I used to own. I probably still do. I don't remember selling it. I might have when I moved, but I read it for my YA lit class in college, and it's The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. By censoring this one, you're taking away Native American voices. Sherman Alexie is Native American, and he writes about this kid's experience on a reservation, and he implements a bunch of stereotypes when it comes to Native Americans, how they're perceived by the family versus this kid who's still learning. It was a very informative book, and it's written in a fun way. Like, there are pictures all throughout this book. It's almost like a graphic memoir type of situation, but yeah, there's definitely humor in there. I thought it was very well written. I nailed that essay too at that class. That one has been challenged because I think it talks about drinking at one point, because there's a stereotype that Native Americans drink a lot on reservations, and it talks about that in that, but I don't know. I mean, I read it for a class, so there's that. And it did teach me a lot about that culture and the language and everything. It's basically about this kid adapting to a new school and how people made fun of him because he was different from everyone, and it's honestly sad. So trigger warnings for bullying for sure. And I'm sure there are others, so do your research before reading these books. The next book I want to talk about is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. If you're gonna read this book, I highly recommend the audiobook. If you know me, that is rare for me to say because I'm not an audiobook girly, but yep, All Boys Aren't Blue does the job. By challenging or banning this book, silencing a Black trans voice. They talk about their experience navigating life, social norms, homophobia, and all of that bullshit, and it gets really emotional. I'm pretty sure the audiobook made me tear up. They know how to write, and they know how to convey the emotions they want to convey. It's just so sad to me that this is on this list just because of the subject matter, and it's a memoir, so it's like you're literally silencing someone's life. Like, you're literally saying this person's story is not worthy to be read, is not worthy to be talked about in schools, and it's just so fucking heartbreaking. And I think the last book on here that I saw on one of these lists is The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. This is a nonfiction book that I read in my AP Bio class in high school, and I still remember it. I remember the subject matter for the most part. Do I recall specifics of it? No. But getting rid of this book will erase the story of this woman who was basically stolen from by these hospitals who used her cells without consent. Like, her cells were doing this weird thing where it kept reproducing, like, that's why it's called the Immortal Life, because her cells were just endlessly regenerating. Medical professionals were like, whoa, this is weird. I want to do an experiment on this, but I'm not going to ask for her permission. And they just like take advantage of her rights, basically, or lack thereof at the time. And it shares a story of how those rights were non-existent, especially for minorities. And yeah, it's just sad. These medical professionals and these scientists were profiting off of this woman's body while she's like suffering and literally dying because of this cell mutation, I think is what they called it. Yeah, it's just heartbreaking again. But I really did enjoy that, even though it was required reading, because the story was very intriguing and captivating because of how unjust it was and how impactful it was to the medical field, the STEM fields. So yeah, wow. Do I feel intelligent? God, editing this is gonna be so painful. I've stuttered so much. Hopefully, the end result doesn't show that. But let me know in the comments down below if you've read and enjoyed any of these books. Happy Banned Books Week. Hope you read a banned book this week. I'm gonna be reading Persepolis. I was gonna do a whole vlog on banned books, but I forgot to include them in my TBR. It's just too much. And then all the stuff that happened this month, there's no way I can do that to myself. But I am gonna be reading Persepolis. It's a graphic memoir. I heard that one's very powerful as well. Again, silencing someone's life or who knows what. If you made it to the end of this video, what should we put? I just saw red on this, so let's just put the red heart emoji. We'll go back to the basics. The red heart emoji in the comments down below if you made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching. Hope y'all had a great day. Stay safe and stay positive always, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye!